Hello and welcome to another episode of NG Club Live. I am here today with my two lovely co-hosts. First of all, Angelina Welpley. Say hi, Angelina. How are you doing today? Good. And also Madeline Welpley.
Hi.
Now, we started a second session of NG Club at our local elementary school, which means that this is a new set of kids. Our first session went really well for 8 weeks in the fall. We did Scratch and a number of other programming things, and I think it turned out really well. I talked about that in some of our previous videos. But now we have a new set of kids, a new set of things that we're working on, and we changed it up a little bit of what we were going to do. So, Maddie, why don't you talk a little bit about what we did for this new session?
So this new session, we're going to be actually writing the code. Last session, we made the mistake of doing Scratch.
Well, I wouldn't say mistake. It's not a mistake.
So many times that we couldn't actually write code and we didn't actually know by the end of the time. So this session, we're going to actually use Blockly, which is a place where it translates it's like Scratch, but it translates the blocks.
Yeah, it's so let's back up a little bit for a second, and then I want to get your opinion on some stuff too, Angie. So Blockly is a visual programming interface similar to Scratch. However, it's a library built by Google that you can modify. So I actually built my own app at ngclub.app, which is a simplified version. And the key thing that I was interested in, as Maddie was starting to allude to, is that as you are moving the blocks and creating your code in this visual interface, it's actually showing you the real JavaScript code right next to it, and then you can execute and run it. And I think executing and running it, Angie, that was your favorite part during the class, right? What were you doing during the class?
So I was also talking with the other one who runs it too.
Well, what was that? The other what?
The other one that runs it too.
The other what that runs it?
The other person that runs it.
Are you talking about Ken? Oh, okay. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Yeah. So there is somebody else who helps me out, Ken Truesdale, who is another programmer, and so Angie's referring to that. There's a lot of good discussions going on. So for this course, with this approach, at a very high level, the last session we went top down, where we were playing games. And building games, and then we sort of use that as a way, they entertain the kids, and then we use that as a way of introducing kids to programming concepts. And Maddie, in general, how do you think that approach went?
Well, it went pretty good as well. Kids got to learn that they liked coding, but like we had too less time, we couldn't actually teach them how.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, I think people had fun. I'm pretty sure that if you ask somebody like what is a variable at the very end of the session, I'm not sure all the kids would be able to explain it. So for this course, for this session rather, we decided to flip it on its head and do things from the bottom up. Start from the very basics and still use the visual interface, but looking at the code and starting really, really basic. So Angie, do you remember there was two things that we talked about, only two things really. Do you remember what those were, or one of them?
One of them was the base, I think it was the variables.
Ah, variables, yes, you got it right. Yes, so the first thing was just talking about variables, and actually, I do think that went over really well. Maddie, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that went over very well. A lot of kids liked it, and a lot of kids were like not new to coding. That boy there said his dad is a computer programmer too, so It went pretty well for people. Dad, I think at the end one of those kids was like, I didn't know that was a variable.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you take a bottom-up approach, it takes a while, and for kids that need to be like super detained all the time, they might not be into it. But I think it is interesting, and people, you take it really, really slow. Like we for example, using the visual interface, we created a variable, and then we would like set it to different values, right? Like, so Maddie, we were doing a math problem, right? Which I think kids like the math problems to start off with, just using it to add two numbers, right? And then what were some of the, Angie, what were some of the variations that we did with the math problem? You remember how you changed it a little bit? So Angie changed it from plus to multiply, and we all, and it allowed us to each take guesses about, okay, what would the answer be? What did the variable contain in this case, in that case? And then we changed it from numbers to strings to words, right, Maddie?
Numbers, strings to words.
Right.
Very big process.
And so I think just like, I mean, we probably spent even more time than I thought on variables, and I think we'll spend some more time even next week. But people got it. And then we moved on to, do you guys remember the other thing, the second thing?
I do.
Wait, Angie, what is it? What is it?
Maddie did the first one. I did the first one. I think it did too.
Okay, Maddie, what do you think?
I think it was the like blocks that like allow you to keep on moving, and many times, and like one time, two times. I think that was it, or
it was functions.
That was. Isn't that fun? Oh.
Well, I think you're thinking of the loops. We didn't actually even get into the loops this time.
The functions.
Yeah, so we did functions where.
About the function
right.
Part of it. Of the function.
So we took the lines of code, and then we just threw everything in a function, and then we started calling that function multiple times in different ways. And to be honest, I in retrospect, if I had to do it over again, I would have just stuck with variables for a longer time, and we could have done a bunch of different variations. We could have brought in like booleans and other stuff, which we didn't do, and then waited until a whole class dedicated to functions, because there's just a lot there. And so next class, actually, I have to think about it a little bit, but basically coming up, we need to talk about loops, right? And if conditional statements, and then functions. So I'll think about a little bit of what order we want to do it in, but I actually do like this approach of like really taking things slow. Now, as far as Blockly goes, I do like the software. The one thing that is a little bit frustrating, and unless you're a JavaScript nerd, you're not going to understand this, but the code it produces, everything is in the global scope. It doesn't actually function scope anything, which makes it a little bit hard to do certain things. But that's just like a technical aspect. And because it's a library, I am actually going to try to hack it a little bit and see if I can get it working. But anyways, so girls, the big question is, now, like I told the class, after we learn the basics, we are going to work on a website. What type of website should we work on?
A website that you do code, like we should all build it together, and then there's like code that's building it, and then we like all as a group on the rug base it on the smart board.
Ooh, that's a good idea. Hey, Maddie, what were you gonna say?
Dad, can you show them block? Like, you want to show?
So Maddie, that's a good point. Okay, I like your thought.
I'll do it too.
Well, no, only one of us have to do it, Maddie.
Yeah, because
so hold on.
Dad.
So let's. I'm gonna share.
Dad, do we see it?
Hold on a second. I'm just trying to make sure.
Oh, I can see it.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right, so just as an FYI, if you go to ngclub.info, every week I'm going to put a blog post for each of the lessons that we're doing. So this was everything that we did in this previous week, but ngclub.app, that is where the app that I'm working on is an Angular app that uses Blockly. And so what I was referring to is like we would create a variable called foo, and then we would like set the variable to some value. Like, Angie, what number should I use?
100.
Well, let's do something smaller.
How about 6?
6, that's a good one.
Or 600.
Let's do 6. And then I'd create a new variable. Maddie, what do you want for another name of a variable?
Daddy.
Daddy?
Maddie.
Oh, Maddie. Okay. So then we're gonna set Maddie, and let's add.
I get to pick mine.
What do you want to name yours, Ange?
Mine's gonna be named Cuckoo Bird. A bird.
Cuckoo. I don't even know how to spell cuckoo. All right.
Oh my God, that's so parent. You should know how to spell cuckoo. And Maddie gets to pick, and me and Maddie get to pick the number.
Maddie, what do you want the number to be?
6, 10,
You took too long.
11.
Okay. So, what we were talking about. And then.
I'm gonna.
Okay.
Press one program.
Wait a second. Let me finish this.
Dad, can I press one program?
Hold on. So, not yet, Ange. So, this was an example of something quick that threw together where we set these variables, and you could see the JavaScript code produced on the right side, where foo is just the name of a variable and it's set to 6, and then cuckoo is set to 8, and then Maddie set to cuckoo plus foo. And the whole thing was we would be like, okay, what do you think this window alert's going to pop up a message with the value of Maddie? What do you think the value of Maddie is? And Angie, what do you think it is?
Value? I do not know. Can I press one program?
You cannot. It's on my computer. Maddie, what do you think the value is of Maddie? Look at it, Maddie.
I don't know.
Look. So foo is 6, and cuckoo is 8, and Maddie is cuckoo plus foo.
Cuckoo plus foo. So 6 plus 8
Is what?
No, you have to 6 plus 14.
14 is correct. And so we talked about like how, okay, if you change, hold on a second, Ange. If you change the order of this, the variables here, it'll still be the same thing. And then we changed, rather than numbers, we set this to words. So, hey, Maddie, you got to stop that, please.
I don't know. It's so cool. A little.
Okay. So we set it to words like, I like pizza pies. And then if you run program, I like pizza pies. It combines the two, the foo plus coo, and so it just kind of concatenates them together.
I like pizza pies so much.
So yeah, we did different variations of this, and then like I mentioned for the function one, we would just take a function and we put everything in there, and then we would call the function multiple times. So you'd call the function twice, and it would say it twice. And we did different variations of this, but I think you get the general idea. Okay. I'm gonna stop
back to your screen.
I am going back.
Oh, next.
Okay. So let's talk about the next couple weeks. So we're going to do basics, then we're going to do a game, and for the game, that's the thing is that we're not gonna. We're the thing I'm going to build up to actually. Sorry, I missed one thing that we're going to do. So the basics, and then actually one important thing is we're going to learn about the DOM. The DOM is in the web programming. It is the object that is like the browser itself. It gives you access to doing manipulating what the user is seeing in the browser. So that is where like we'll get a lot into HTML and CSS, and I think that when we do the game, a lot will be involved with actually messing around with different stuff on the screen.
I think I really want to Dada, I'm gonna ask you something.
Yeah, what is it, Ange?
So when we do the club, when we do it, are we gonna have what are we doing on the Chromebox?
Yeah, so Angie, that's actually a really good question, because one thing I didn't mention is that for this first class, we just did it on the whiteboard and we didn't even use the computers at all. So next week, in addition to talking in detail about either conditionals or loops or functions, we are also going to have the kids bring out the Chromebooks. And I actually have to think about that of the exact way. Like there were some things that worked and didn't work in terms of how people were working, trying things out. So I got to put that together this week. So we'll see. We'll do another session next week and talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's start to wrap stuff up, guys. So I'm gonna finish with each one of you to talk about. Okay, first of all, one thing that you're excited about, all right, and one thing you're excited about that's happened in the past couple of days, and then one thing you're looking forward to. Okay, and Angie, let's go to you first.
So what happened a few days ago was my friend's birthday party. And it was really fun because when we did it, so we went to this
well, you don't have to go into the whole story. We could just leave it at that your friend's birthday party. And what about for in the future, Ange?
Looking forward to my friend's birthday.
Wait, another birthday party, you mean? So a different friend. Oh, okay. It's birthday season, I guess. Maddie, what about you?
Past, let me think.
Well, if you don't have anything, just move on.
I didn't enjoy it, but I got sick. Sort of.
Oh, okay. That's a good thing to say.
I'm looking forward. I don't know. Maybe. Actually, the same thing Andy was.
Oh, birthday party?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the same birthday party.
You guys both have basketball games coming up, things like that. Cool.
Basketball and basketball.
Very cool. Okay, so for me, so I was very excited to do the first NG Club again. Very excited to learn a little bit about the upcoming soccer season. We have a couple players that got put on my roster for the Maddie's team and Angie's team that I run. So that was exciting for me this past week. And
wait, you run our soccer teams?
I'm the coach.
You never told us.
I'm the coach, yeah. And then for this upcoming week, I am actually working on a project at work. I'm excited for working on the Blockly app that I'm doing for NG Club to make some improvements for next week. But then also I'm working on something at work called Hypmatic that we are going to try to launch next week. So that will be exciting as well. And that's about it. So thank you all for joining us. Join us again next week.
Bye.
Say bye, Angie. Say bye, Maddie. All right. Thanks a lot. Have a good one.